Bible Talk
Are you ready for
PT2
some blasphemy?
Creation
bitches?
Story.
Genesis. Probably one of the hardest stories to understand. Not for your boy. It's easy. Everything is duality. Heaven, earth, without form, void, face of the deep, face of the water. Let there be light. Then there was light. God saw light. It was good. God divided light from the dark. God called light day, dark night. It's talking in circles. God saw light. It was good. Zoop. God saw light. It was good. Let there be light, which is forward. And then there was light, backwards. So it's going in directions. It begins with heaven and earth. And then it goes backwards to without form and void. And then it goes forward again. There was darkness on the face of the deep. Spirit was on the face of the waters. There's 4 faces in creation. There's the face of the firmament. Here we go. There's face of the firmament, which is heaven, which they use the word open of the firmament. And then when you go look through the dictionary part, open means face. And then there's face of the water, which is spirit, face of the deep, and face of the earth. All in creation story. And then you'll find that it's repeating. It's just repeating over and over again. Some of the verses are repeated. Verse 2 and 7 are repeats. Darkness on the face of the deep, spirit on the face of the water. The firmament divided the waters under the firmament from the waters above the firmament. Number 3, God said, let there be light. There was light. Number 4, God saw light. Light was good. 1 and 6 are basically the same. And what they're telling you is towards the end, they're foreshadowing that trees in the garden was human trees. And that the fruit was the fruit, the upside down tree. So they're talking about they're talking about bloodlines, and not to go into the serpent bloodline to know evil. And you get to like the metaphysical stuff with Genesis, but it's basically telling you that there was 2 gods, male and female, huge giants that created the firmament and everything underneath it. And then by the end, on the 7th day, they both died. And that's why it's so important that we keep the Sabbath to remember them, because without them too, we would not be here, because life comes from life. So Abba and Amma were the 2 huge giant gods that created their cocoon thing for them to die in, and created America, Asia, Africa, Australia, Antarctica. So this would be their shoulders, and then their thigh, and then their shoulders, and then their thigh. And they died and laid down. Then after a while, filled in with water. This is just their decaying carcass, which brought forth new life. And these gods didn't die because they just rose up into spirit and came back down as more smaller giant gods, who then die and become more smaller giant gods. And then we are little specks of their soul that are reincarnated over and over and over again. So we are part of the one. We're all one, part of one God, or this God. And from their bodies sprouted up life. And that's why we keep the Sabbath holy, is because in reverence of the creator gods. And the gods say, behold, look at me, because they want the humans wanted the gods to pick them up, to hold them so that they could see them, because the humans were so much smaller than the gods. we were just made for to be their food source. We were just like little hobbitses running around, being all happy and joyful. And they were like, okay, but then there's these serpents in the midst over here. Do not, don't even touch them, because then you'll know evil. And their DNA will come into your trees and your bloodlines. And we said, sure thing, Jesus, or God, whatever. And we were like, oh, the serpent beguiled me. It was his fault. But, and then this is just the story of the serpent bloodline going through the ages and what happened after our bloodline went through and had the serpent DNA. So then I'll go through Cain and Abel, cannibalism. Obviously, when they're doing sacrifices, they're just calling the giants. And the giant is obviously going to pick barbecue over a salad. And then Cain and Abel. Cain got pissed. Abel slashed him in the face, causing the mark of Cain. Cain bashed his head in. Then Cain ate Abel because God came down. The Lord God, the female. She sniffed the earth. Earth is mother. She didn't find the bodies. She didn't find the bones. She just sniffed the earth. And the earth called up to her, and she was like, she knew that he killed him. And she asked why he did it. Because she knows that the serpent bloodline is in them. And it goes through all the stories of Cain and Abel, and then Lamech is his son, and then his son kills a boy and a man and eats them, and they were like, well, aren't the other people going to kill you? And he's like, well, if God was going to take vengeance on my grandfather sevenfold, then he'll surely take vengeance on anyone who kills me 77-fold. Because Lamech doesn't believe his grandfather, that his grandfather said God would punish them if they tried to touch him or seek vengeance for Abel. Pretty smart. So you got to read between the lines, people. It's the Garden of Eden, because we were the food source. We were eaten. And so I'll go through the other stories. Once you realize that and you read the Bible from that perspective, a lot of stuff starts making sense. And that's the biggest secret they don't want to tell you, is that it's giant worship. And they're following the bloodline of the serpent seed, evil. So when the Bible talks, the Bible's just saying like vague, and then it gets a little more detailed, and then a little bit more detailed, a little bit more detailed, and keeps going back and forth. But it's the same story over and over again. It's sort of creating like a spiral with the wording, and it's going through. So that's all it is. So I'll get into that. The story of the story of Adam and Eve, and then we'll go into Cain and Abel, and then Noah, and I'll show you how they're all the same story being told over and over, and they're all talking about giants that came down, and they say, behold, see me, and they're like, okay, I'll pick you up, and then they're like, oh, look at me, Lord, and then let's talk. Yeah, it's because it's all giant worship.